What is up, everyone? Melbourne Regionals is currently happening in the Pokemon TCG competitive scene. And for those of you who don't know what that means it's the first tournament with Astral Radiance being legal. So all eyes are on Australia right now to see what's happening. And at the time of recording this, we just have a top 8. We don't actually know what's happening with the top 8 because I got stuff to do today. But I wanted to show you guys the Turbo Palkia list that the Australian players, some of the best in the world, Nat, Kaiwin, Christian Husbani, and Brent Tonneson brought to this event. 3 of them sitting in top 8 and 1 tying their winning in. Nat was the unfortunate one who tied their winning in on the chance to make top 8. But they always innovate the format. And this is a very, very crazy list that I really wanted to talk to you guys about. I won't be posting this until the tournament is actually over, out of respect for the players. So by the time that either finals or the tournament is done, you will see this live. Hopefully I'm the first of the scene, and if you guys enjoy this kind of content, leave a like, subscribe, and you know the drill. But without further ado, we're going to sit down and look at this Turbo Palkia list. I hope you guys are ready because it's kind of crazy. But remember, like and subscribe. I bet you didn't expect anything like this. Earlier this week, Reiji Nishiguchi played a late night event with Dialga, and it was a Turbo Shell of Dialga that nobody had really expected, utilizing 4 copies of this Mysterious Tail Mew. Basically, what you were trying to do is use this Mysterious Tail Mew to look at the top 6 cards, find an item card that basically would let you continue playing the game, either an Ultra Ball, a Quick Ball, something of that nature, maybe Metal Saucer, and you just keep the chain going. Now, with Dialga, you need to get to that 5 energy threshold to even use the Chrono V-Star, and your damage gets capped pretty quickly. So why not take that same concept? I'm speaking from their perspective. Why not take that same concept and incorporate it into probably the best card coming out of the set, Palkia V-Star. Palkia V-Star with the subspace swell attack does 60 plus 20 for each benched Pokemon on both sides, which means you cap out at 290, thus putting you in a place to get an inkling away from one-shotting almost any VMAX, and you are able to one-shot any V-Star that doesn't have a big charm attached to it. Now, the really cool part about this Pokemon is you have this Star Portal ability that lets you get 3 water energies from your discard pile and attach it to your water Pokemon in any way you like. A lot of people were just playing Palkia in Talion. That's the more consistent, the more standard, the way we know how to play it. And other than Palkia, you were really only accelerating energies onto your Radiant Greninja, which gave you the Moonlight Shuriken attack ability, which does 90 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Concealed cards lets you discard a card from your hand to draw 2, energy card from your hand to draw 2 cards. So the combo was already there, set in stone. But what did the Australians take and innovate? They added 2 Diancies to this list. I think Diancie is one of my favorite cards from the new set. Isaiah Bradner and I have loved this card since the day we saw it. Princess's Curtain says as long as this Pokemon is in the active spot, whenever your opponent plays a supporter card from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to your benched Pokemon. Basic Pokemon, sorry. And there is everything in this deck is a basic Pokemon besides the Palkia V-Star, so you don't have to evolve into the V-Star until it's time to actually get the ball rolling, which is the coolest part about this deck. Diancie basically just says, get in there, we're going to set up our board. You can even spike draw for 20 and draw 2 cards to keep building your hand size, and your bench guys cannot get bossed. Therefore, you're forcing a 7 prize game every single game, no matter what. You're giving them, everything in this deck is a 2 prizer besides these little guys. So you are going to force them into this position where they have to take these 1 prizers. There's 4 Mew and 2 Diancie. There's 1 Pumpkaboo, which is our answer to deal with Path to the Peak. You can see notably there are no stadiums in this deck, but we have now a ball searchable card to deal with Path to the Peak. If it's in the prize cards, we have 2 Hisuian Heavy Ball. If it's in the deck, we have 4 Ultra 4 Quick. And that'll let us play the game. And then we have 1 copy of Galarian Zigzagoon with the Headbutt Tantrum, giving us a little bit of an extra pivot or damage to deal with stuff, to just kind of pump up those numbers a little bit, 290 to 310 maybe. The Starmie getting over a little bit of the hump as well, over the 300 O's even numbers. Suicune getting into some cleaner numbers as well. With 4 copies of Scoop Up Net, we can reutilize this guy as much as we want. Now, we'll talk about the backup attackers here. Suicune V has Fleet-Footed and Blizzard Rondo, and I think the logic behind Suicune is just it's a Melonyable target that we can power up in 1 turn to punish, it's just a 2 prize V Pokemon, or we can just have a Suicune accelerate an energy to it, have an attachment plus a boss plus a choice belt, and a lot of the time, most bench V Pokemon will die to this Suicune because you're only doing 40 less than Palkia, so we're still hitting for 250. Now 250 is still a pretty good number because we can still use Zigzagoon to damage modify that. We also have Starmie V, which has Swift to deal with the Miltank Blissey deck because we can shred through that. And now you're thinking, what if they get a big Blissey? We just Energy Spiral it with the second attack. Energy Spiral is a really good attack to punish a lot of V-Star decks because 280 is a very easy number to get to. with the energy spiral attack, because 5 energy is in play a lot of the time, very typically, especially for Arceus decks. And Arceus decks will typically have that energy in play. We just kind of power up the board, and we can kind of get in there with the Starmie. For our support in the back, we have a Lumineon that lets us get a supporter and has the Aqua Return attack to shuffle this Pokemon all attacks to its deck. We're probably never getting this Aqua Return off, but it's basically just to make sure we get the supporter the turn we need it, and we have that option. There's 2 Crobats that lets us just draw cards with Dark Asset and fill our hands. So basically, like, we're going to be going Turbo, 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 and using these Crobats. There's 4 copies of Capacious Buckets, which lets us get 2 water and 10 water energies. Now, you may be thinking that's a lot, that's pretty excessive, but the whole point of the deck is to have cards that Mew can search for us. And so Capacious Bucket is a Mew searchable card that gets us those 2 waters, which then accelerates our game plan by letting us draw with the Greninja, yada yada, etc., etc. You know the drill. It's a cycle that just never ends. So this is something that's very, very cool to have option-wise. Yeah. And then we have 2 copies of Hisuian Heavy Ball, which lets us look at the face-down prize cards. Normally, decks only play 1, but because of how many 1-ofs are actually in this deck that are super important, the Pumpkaboo, the Starmie, the Greninja, if you prize a Palkia, like, I'm sure you will have 2 of these important cards in your prizes at some point or another. So playing Hisuian Heavy Ball or 2 of them early will make sure that you are not stuck in that rut. We have 4 copies of Quick and 4 copies of Ultra, which are just standard ball search cards in this format. We have 4 copies of Scoop Up Net, which lets us reuse the Pumpkaboo, pivot our Mews and Diancies, reuse that Zigzagoon for pings, and then we can also use Radiant Greninja multiple times in one turn if we need to, because it acts as a new Greninja when it hits the board. We have 4 copies of Trekking Shoes, which might be one of the coolest cards in the new set. Look at the top card. If you don't like it, pitch it, get a new one. If you like it, keep it, kind of thing. It's just a worse Acrobite because you can't see both cards, but it is still a very cool card because you can basically just say, I want to draw 1, because this card is just to draw 1, like draw 1 blank, and if that 1 is not something I like, I get to draw another. And you're getting through your deck a little bit quicker, you're seeing a little bit more things, so your turbo game plan does not stop. You're playing 4 copies of Boss's Orders because our game plan into almost every matchup is boss, boss, boss. We're going 2 prizer, 2 prizer, 2 prizer, game is over. We can't race anything that's not 2 prizer, 2 prizer, 2 prizer a lot of the time. We have 2 copies of Melony to actually set up the board, so while our Diancie is in the active or our Mew is in the active, we can kind of take a second to Melony to our board, get a couple energies on there, ensure that we actually have a couple of attackers to outlast the game. Because after Star Portal, Star Portal can maybe set up 2 attackers for you, but the 3rd attacker has to be set up somewhere else, unless you just find perfect energy attachments, which you could, because you have Bucket plus Waters. We have 2 copies of Air Balloon to pivot around, and we have 2 copies of Choice Belt as well to add to that damage. That plus 30 helps a lot in Palkia getting to 290, which knocks out most V-Stars. It gets very close to knocking out VMAXs, and then Starmie gets from 250 to 280, which is also a very crucial number, like we mentioned. So this Turbo Palkia deck is taking up 3 slots in top 8 right now. I don't know how it's going to finish, but I'm really excited because this is something very new and unique that I've not seen before, and so I'm hoping one of them does really well. It does mean that moving into Milwaukee, we're going to have a lot of things to unpack, so come back on Monday for our meta discussion on what happened this weekend in top 8 and what to expect moving into Milwaukee. So I hope you guys enjoy, like, subscribe, and we'll see you later.